You heard there Ed's report on what's going on. Are things getting better or not? Because it didn't sound like it from Ed's report.
Well, it depends on how you look at it. We've done a lot better in getting inbound cargo imports out of the terminals and to the warehouses. So that's the plus. We still have a lot of empties on the dock, and we're sending empty loaders in to pick them up. So everything is focused on continuing to create fluidity in the terminals.
So address one report in the news today, which is there may not be quite as many ships, container ships, just right off the coast there, in part because they're changing the way they bring them over. They're slowing them down. They're keeping out at sea. Is that the fact? And if so, what does that do for us?
Well, it is the fact, and it was really brought on when we had that first big winter storm. We had too many vessels at anchor, and these anchorages were set up when ships were a lot smaller. So the concern of the Coast Guard and the Marine Exchange were we had huge vessels in a very small space, and we needed to evacuate it to about 50% of what was being kept there before because of weather concerns. And we wanted to get the vessels out of the basin and out further out to sea where they were not in any danger of running into each other, right? That there's open seas, ability to maneuver. So we brought them out about 150 miles. That was the initial step in changing the queuing process. And then we started to think about, okay, there are two things that the new queuing process is going to do. It's going to create a more safe environment, and it's going to help with the environmental issues. So what we've done is we are now telling the ships that when they leave their last port of call before heading for Southern California, they need to contact the Marine Exchange and let them know they're underway. Once they're underway, we calculate their speed at an average of 19 knots. However, they can go as slow as they want to get to the complex in time to get a berth. So they know pretty much when a berth is going to be made available for them. So they come across the ocean at a much slower pace, helping the environment. They get to the San Pedro Bay in 2 to 3 days before their berth is available versus 2 to 3 weeks, which creates a lot better situation for, all the people that live close to the terminals themselves.
So getting to a berth, as I understand, is the first step, but then you have to get the stuff off and get it onto the dock and then ultimately onto some form of transportation. Talk to us about the longshoremen, the stevedores, because there's a contract negotiation, as I understand, going on right now. Are we going to have a strike?
Well, there's not a contract negotiations going on right now. It will probably start sometime in March, maybe early April, and expires July 1st. So we have not begun the negotiating process itself. And I would just say, I think both sides are cautiously optimistic that we're going to get through this without any further disruptions.
What are the biggest issues that you anticipate? I don't want you to negotiate right now with me, but what are the biggest issues in general? Is it pay?
No, it is not.
So will, as a result of these negotiations, you expect the cost of shipping things go up?
Well, there's a lot of factors that go into the cost of shipping goods, right? The cost of capital, what it costs to move, from A to B to C to D. But from a purely labor perspective, if there's any increase, it'll be marginal.
Do we have enough longshoremen and stevedores? I know we don't have enough truck drivers.
We do have enough longshoremen. We continue to add to the ranks as needed. And I will tell you, the longshoremen have done a tremendous job during this very difficult time. They show up to work every day. They do what they have to. The biggest constraint that we have is you can only unload the ship so fast. If the cargo isn't moving out of the terminals, then there's no place to unload the cargo. So it's really a hand-to-mouth situation. It's not only the trucking situation, but it's also the warehousing. The warehousing is really double jeopardy, and there's no capacity in the warehouses, and there are not enough workers in the warehouses.
Two questions here, if I may. Two-part question. Number one, when do you think we'll actually be through this, if ever? And second, will there be structural changes that result from what we've experienced?
Well, it's difficult to predict when it'll be over. I think most of our members are telling us that this will last at least through mid-year and maybe through all of 2022. As far as structural changes are concerned, one of the things that we look at as automating the ports themselves. We are in an urban area. Our footprint is our footprint is our footprint. You can't make it any bigger. So what you need to do is you need to densify. And to really densify in these facilities and be able to handle twice as many containers in a terminal, automation is one of the ways that you can get there. So some of our members have gone down the road of automation, others will, some won't. But it is an option that I'm sure people are looking at as we look to the future.
Are you looking at changed patterns in shipping in this sense? There's a lot of talk about near-shoring, for example, as opposed to bringing it over from Asia, for all sorts of reasons, including just diversifying supply chain. Do you think that the patterns in the longer term will change about where we're shipping things from?
I don't think considerably. You know, China's our biggest trading partner now, and Southern California ports handle about 40% of the imports that come into this country. So they are where where imports really come to get into the gateways. I don't see it changing drastically, at least in the next 15, 20 years. You never know what's down the road, but you know, this is a very, very good system. It is a very good process. We're struggling now from what a lot of the country is struggling with, and that is labor availability in some very, very key segments, i.e. trucking and warehousing.